Hi everybody, welcome back to this edition of Inside Sports. I'm your host Chris Marks, and today we have a good program for you as we're going to preview all the high school football matchups in the state of Maryland, including those right here in Prince George's County. And joining me is Gazette sports writer Ted Black. Ted, thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me on, Chris.
So exciting time of the year here with the high school football playoffs getting started, and we're going to go through the regions here, and some teams from Prince George's County might be able to make their way through. We'll start in the 1A South region where a team from Prince George's County kind of backed their way in, but they are in, and that's Surrattsville.
Yeah, Surrattsville gets in, courtesy of Forest Park had to forfeit some games. They were one of the higher seeds in 1A South, but they had to forfeit some games, so they dropped out, and Surrattsville moves in and inherits a good spot. They have to travel this weekend, but they go up against WEB Dubois, who's really not a strong team in that region, and a good chance for Surrattsville to win. Unfortunately, you win that game, and then you got to turn around and face Dunbar, who's one of the favorites to win the 1A state title this year. But Surrattsville gets in, and good chance they win this weekekend.
And Dunbar's playing Southside, so they're not going to lose that game. Dunbar, traditionally the powerhouse, but Surrattsville's in a good spot. They backed themselves in. They have a chance to win a playoff game. What do you know about them?
Kind of up and down season for them. A real strong start to the season. They had actually opened with some of the lesser teams in the league. I'm not sure the exact order by now. They had Fairmont Heights, Central, Forestville early on. Kind of a rough go against some of the bigger teams, Douglas, Friendly, and Gwen Park. But they put enough wins together. They earn enough points to be in a spot where they can get in the playoffs. And with Forest Park coming out, they move in. And, favorable matchup for them this weekend. I think they'll get past WEB Dubois. Unfortunately, they got Dunbar waiting on the other end. Dunbar's one of the favorites to win the whole 1A state title this year.
Other good teams in the 1A classification, you have, of course, Fort Hill from out west in Perryville.
Perryville's strong. 1A West, looks like it's all Fort Hill again this year. 1A North, Overly and Newtown look like the two best teams there. And then 1A East, Perryville looks fairly strong in there. So in the long run, it looks like it should come down to Dunbar and Fort Hill. But if either of those teams has a hiccup along the way, you could see Perryville possibly get through. But it looks like Dunbar and Fort Hill are going to meet up at M&T Bank Stadium in a couple of weeks.
So Surrattsville is our team here in Prince George's County in the 1A. We have two teams in the 2A coming out of the county. We'll start with Frederick Douglass. Lost a lot of players from last season, but they qualify in as the 4th seed, but they have a tough matchup in the 2A South region against number 1 Patuxent. Yeah,
Douglas, kudos to them. Slow start to the year. A lot of new faces on the team after graduating 26 players last year. But, they got everything together. J.C. Pinckney did a great job getting them going again. 8-2, they get in. They go to Patuxent this weekend, which looks like one of the stronger teams from SMAC, and certainly the top seed in that region. And Douglas is definitely going to have a tough time getting past Patuxent, but they're in. They make plays and can force some mistakes. They could certainly get past them. But yeah, Patuxent, I think their only loss was to Huntingtown, who's one of the better 3A teams in the whole state this year. So I would say glad to see Douglas, overcome a lot of losses from the offseason to graduation and slow start to the season, and they're in. But tough matchup for them going to Patuxent this weekend. Yeah,
you see they're playing on Friday night. The other Friday night game features the number 3 seed, which is Gwen Park. They're going on a road to take on number 2 seed Glen Elg. That's another interesting matchup in the 2A South region.
Yeah, two teams that are fairly similar. Glen Elg, I don't think has been as battle-tested as Gwen Park this year, having played Potomac, Douglas, Friendly. They played some of the stronger teams in the county. It's going to be a close game. Anytime you go on the road, you don't know what to expect. Gwen Park has definitely got a chance to get past Glen Elg this weekend. Glen Elg slight favorite, being at home, but a game that certainly could go either way. And maybe Gwen Park and Douglas meet up in the region final the following week. Chances are pretty slim that's going to happen with both teams having to be on the road this weekend against higher seeds. But Douglas, and Gwen Park both fought their way through to get in, and can't overlook either team at this point.
What do you know about Gwen Park? They had 2 losses. They had to win to get in this weekend, and they took care of that.
Yeah, they did. Again, good start to the year by beating Potomac when Darby wasn't playing. One other hiccup along the way, I think Douglas got them, if I'm not mistaken. But other than that, they bounced back. They had a number of really good games this year, and of course, they pretty much had to win to seal a good spot in the region. I think they had already clinched a spot. It was a matter of were they going to be the 3 or the 4 with a win this weekend, and they did not have any trouble this past weekend. I think they beat Surrattsville. They
did beat Surrattsville this past weekend to get into the playoffs. The rest of the 2A, a very competitive classification in the state of Maryland.
Yeah, and again, a number of teams could get through in 2A. Who's out west?
We have Middletown.
Right, Middletown, Walkersville. Either of those two teams could win that region. I mean, certainly that one's going to be that's going to be tough. Either of those two teams could win there. Edmondson, coming out of the Baltimore region, looks like they're clearly the best team in that region. I expect them to be in the state semis. And then I believe Kent Island should get through from the Eastern Shore.
Buccaneers, always good coming off the Eastern Shore.
Right. Always good team, good program. They've been to state finals before. So you got 4 solid teams. Of the 4, I'd say Patuxent and Edmondson look like the 2 best, but possibly the Middletown Walkersville winner could slip through, and Kent Island could slip through.
We move up to the 3A, and we just touched on it. Prince George's County gets 1 team into the 3A South Region playoffs, but albeit a very good team with a very special player on that team. And Potomac, though, has a very tough draw when it comes to the first round of the playoffs. So they get Westlake, the SMAC 3A South Region. Very competitive matchup this Saturday.
Very good matchup. And Potomac, 8-game winning streak, and they earned enough points that they could actually host this game. And I think Westlake lost over the weekend
to North Point.
So Westlake would have hosted if they had won this game. It's a good region in which Huntingtown's the best team in that region, clearly. But Potomac getting to host Westlake probably shifts it in their favor this weekend. The 2 games that Darby didn't play earlier in the year, they lost, including the opener to Gwen Park. And I think if they have him for that game, instead of losing 14-12, I think they win that game. So with him healthy on the field, probably going to be enough for them to get past Westlake this weekend. Getting past Huntingtown the following weekend is going to be a much taller order.
A guy like Ronald Darby, what can he do to change the complexion of a game when he's healthy?
Oh, I mean, just immense amount of talent. I mean, you can see why Maryland wanted him. Once he gets the ball, he can create things happen. Even if a play that's designed to go to one side breaks down, he can certainly reverse fields and take it back the other way. So, anytime he gets the ball, the other team has got to focus on sealing the lane and making sure he doesn't, get an opening anywhere, because, a 3-yard loss could turn into a 10 or 15-yard gain pretty quickly if he's not tackled and contained.
Talk about Huntingtown out of that region, because they're 9-1 and they are just a dynamite program down there in Calvert County. Yeah,
Huntingtown has been strong for years. Jerry Franks, who was the DeMatha coach way back when, has taken over there and done an exceptional job. And certainly one of the overall favorites to win the 3A state title. You don't want to say it's a given that they're going to win this particular region, but certainly they're favored to win the region. And when they get outside the region, there's probably 2 or 3 teams that have to be looked at. But certainly Huntingtown is going to be in the mix to get to the state title game. They did a few years ago and lost to Linganore, which had an undefeated season that year. So they're always a serious state title contender. Like I said, they'll probably win the region. They get outside the region. Just depends on who gets through from those other 3 regions.
And talk about the 3A West region, because we were talking at before we went on said here. Seneca Valley's taking on Thomas Johnson, and Linganore's playing Damascus. 4 years ago, you would say there's your state final preview right there with those teams, but a little bit down, same name, but not the same caliber team.
Correct. Seneca Valley, Thomas Johnson, Linganore, and Damascus, correct. I think couple of those teams were 4A at one time. I mean, Damascus was a 4A team for a long time. Thomas Johnson was 4A team a few years ago when they came to play Wise in state semifinals. But yeah, I mean, if you looked at that bracket last year, you'd say, wow, whoever comes through this region is probably going to win a state title. This year, the teams are still solid. I think they're down just a little bit. Linganore lost their top running back, Joe Riddle, to a leg injury. You know, he's another Maryland recruit. You know, otherwise, it looked like they were going to be the favorite to win that region. Now, I mean, any of those 4 teams could get through. Seneca Valley's been good the latter half of the year. Damascus has been solid. Thomas Johnson is solid. And, of course, Linganore is still good even without Riddle. So, you know, the problem is it's going to be a dogfight to get through that region. And once that winner gets through, I don't necessarily know if they're going to be good enough to get past, you know, Huntingtown or the other teams in the region.
And you got the North region with North Hartford, Digital Harbor, Franklin, Aberdeen. You know, you got the, you know, the 3A East region, also, you know, competitive. Talk about if any of these teams from these other regions can make a dent, or is it Huntington's to lose?
No, I mean, certainly the 3A North region looks like the weakest one of the group, you know, with North Hartford, and it's probably going to get through. Mm-hmm. But, you know, they're certainly not a cinch to get through there. And 3A East has Athelton, which
River Hill.
And River Hill, you know, Athelton actually looks like the strongest team in that group this year. River Hill is solid. I don't think they match up as well with Athelton as they would have in years past. You know, I'd say Athelton's got to be the favorite to get through there. And then, you know, depending on who draws, you know, which seeds get through from the other regions, you know, I still think Huntingtown and Athelton probably the 2 best teams in 3A. And I expect them to meet in the 3A state title game.
And that would be one heck of a matchup.
Yes.
We're going to take a short break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about each team in the 4A South region, talk about each of their strengths, because anybody could come out of that region. We talked about them in the preseason with the Big Four, and of course, it's the Big Four. So we're going to talk about that when we come back. So stay tuned. More high school preview. We move into the 4A South region, Prince George's County's powerhouse region, albeit, and we'll do that when we come back. Please stay tuned.